Just to avoid any concern from the title, because I know some people don't know what words actually mean, I am not quitting becoming a YouTuber, just to be clear. I want to say that because some people might see I'm not going to be streaming and think it means I'm leaving YouTube. I'm not even vaguely. What the title says, probably, because I haven't actually decided on it yet, is why I'm going to stop streaming 7 Days to Die. For the last few months, I've been trialing streaming 2 times a week, mostly on 7 Days to Die, because I wanted to provide longer form content for my viewers while not spending lots of time and effort editing Let's Play content, because that content does poorly and I hate making it. I'm happy to report that that experiment has been a failure. Now, I'm not fishing for your sympathy or saying that you guys aren't watching my streams and you're not donating enough. Wah. Quite the contrary, actually. You guys turned up quite well for the streams and there were a lot of donations and stuff. I was getting like 300 viewers usually, but sometimes it was more like 500 or 600, and that's cool. For YouTube, that's actually very solid viewership for somebody whose main thing isn't streaming. So thank you to y'all for showing up for that. The problem for me with streaming isn't necessarily that it doesn't make enough money. It's the consequences of streaming that also in a lot of ways make me make less money, but we'll get to that. Over the couple of months where I tried to stream twice a week, I ended up streaming I think 11 distinct times. There was a few split up streams in there, but basically it totaled up to about 31 hours of streaming, which we're going to, for the purposes of this calculation, call work. Now, we can truly fill off a size if sitting on my ass and playing a video game and debating the cultural significance of mac and cheese qualifies as work, but truly, what is that if not babysitting an adult? But I can tell you for certain, in my mind at least, work is anything I would rather not be doing that I'm being paid for. I'd rather not be vacuuming my house, for example, but nobody is paying me to do that. That is a responsibility, not work. Streaming might be more fun than an office job and less hard than coal mining, but it's also time I'd rather be spending doing something else, like sitting on my ass, eating mac and cheese and playing video games, and not talking to people about it, which is my favorite hobby. And I'm adding this clarification just so that we're all on the same page, that I'm not making this video to cry like some millionaire streamer who owns a Lamborghini complaining that their job of sitting on their ass watching TikToks 8 hours a day is like heart surgery. First of all, I'm neither a full-time streamer nor a millionaire, nor do I own a Lamborghini. Streaming is easy. Streaming can be fun, but it's not as easy and fun as free time. So, for my 31 hours of quote-unquote work, I got just under 100,000 views so far. Obviously, these will trickle in a few extra views over the next couple of months, but it won't be significant. Streams just kind of are alive for their first week and then that's it. But from that, I made just over $1,000. Now, before you start doing any mental math, I'm going to go over that right now. Normally, no, I do not make $10 per 1,000 views. That would be a very, very excellent RPM rate for a gaming YouTuber on YouTube. The typical RPM for a gaming YouTuber is roughly $5 per 1,000 views, and generally speaking, the older and more disposable income your audience has, the higher your RPM will be. For example, if you make a tech review, somebody watching a video reviewing a $1,000 phone probably has a lot of extra money to piss away on whatever you're advertising, so it's worth more money to advertise to them, so they might have an RPM of like $40 per 1,000 views. And comparatively, if you are making a Fortnite video, a 7-year-old does not have a considerable amount of disposable income, so you'll only get like $1 or $2 per 1,000 views. So then why did my gaming YouTube streams make $10 per 1,000 views? Well, that's because demographics are only a part of the equation that calculates the approximate revenue you make per 1,000 views. The other part is actually just how many ads are shown per 1,000 views. And the thing that governs how many ads are shown per 1,000 views is how long the viewer is watching on average. If you make a 10-minute video and it's decent, you will probably get 5 minutes of average watch duration per view, which means you'll probably make $4 or $5 per 1,000 views on a gaming video on that, assuming your audience isn't 7 years old. If you make a stream in the same niche, but they watch for half an hour instead of 5 minutes, you won't get 6 times as much revenue, but you can sometimes expect 2 or 3 times the revenue for that 30 minutes of watch time, time, which is why 4-hour stream makes a lot more money per 1,000 views than a 10-minute video. So if we take approximately $1,000 for that 100,000 views before taxes divided by the approximately 31 hours I spent streaming, that's about $32 per hour of streaming, which is pretty good, I won't deny that. Where we reach an issue is that 35% of that was from one stream, the initial 2.5 stream. If we remove that one because it was an outlier caused by a major update and wouldn't be reflective of the revenue I would make on an off period, which we're currently in for 7 Days to Die, we're left with about $700 for 28 hours, which brings it closer to $25 per hour. And you could add taxes to that, say like 20%. It really depends on how much money you make overall, of course, but let's just say 20% for the sake of ease. You're left with about $20 per hour, which is still pretty good, all things considered. There are people doing much harder work for minimum wage in, say, the US, which is what, like $7 before taxes in some places. So what's the problem if I make so much money per hour doing such easy work? Well, it's two major factors. Number one is just that I make more money on videos for less hours invested, I think. Regardless of the fact that I can technically make like $25 per hour streaming on the good end, I can make much more from videos, because even though videos are sometimes half or even a quarter as efficient for dollars per 1,000 views, the ceiling on views is just so much higher, and it ultimately comes down to a simple question. Do I generally get twice or 4 times as many views as I do on a stream relative to the amount of hours I spend making the stream or making the video? And the answer is yes. In those couple of months of streams, I got 100,000 stream views. But in those 2 months where I was streaming, I also got 1.5 million regular views. For the less astute viewers, that's about 15 times more views on non-stream content. So even at double the efficiency, streams are just not as worthwhile. They'd basically have to be 10 to 15 times more efficient to justify the time I spend doing them. And factor number 2 is disruption. Streaming low-key wrecks my life. It plays havoc on my stress levels and ruins my weekends, which should be when I'm recovering from making the videos I make during the week. And I also tend to be the kind of person who eats really shitty food and drinks a lot of caffeine when I'm overstressed about something, which makes my sleep worse and then makes me less productive, meaning that making a stream also means that less videos are made. So now you can see that not only are streams not hitting the 10 times revenue they'd need to beat out a video on revenue, they'd actively need to be doing even more to counteract the loss of productivity they give me as a person to account for the videos I didn't make thanks to that. Now, I tried to do a thing where I just didn't take the weekends off and instead took other days off during the week, but it kind of didn't matter. I found myself unable to work efficiently with the knowledge that I have a stream later in the day. It just kind of keeps me anxious all day on the actual weekends. And then I found that I would need a couple of days to recover from the streams and the previous week of creating videos, and I found myself genuinely doing nothing but those 2 streams over the course of 4 days, which for an average stream length of like 3 hours means I was working, what, an hour and a half every day on average for 4 days a week. You can see why revenue might go down during that time period. I made what, like 6 videos in January? That is absolute ass by my standards. I'm normally a very efficient worker. I can create like a 10 tips video in about 8 hours, and that can easily get 100,000 to 200,000 views and make like $1,000 off of that 1 8-hour work process. Obviously that $1,000 would be split over like a year or a year and a half of the video's natural lifespan, sometimes longer if it just happens to be a more evergreen video, but still, it pays off in the long run very well compared to streaming for 4 hours and on the best end getting like $100. I mean, would you do 8 hours of work for $1,000 before taxes, with the caveat that it would come in monthly payments over the course of a year? I'd take that deal.
How about you, bitch? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
I am slightly lying to myself because that 8-hour video probably takes a combined additional 2 hours of like thinking about the video in my off time, sort of like diffusive thinking, and also some post-publishing work like making the thumbnail, which I rarely time and making the title and responding to comments, which probably should be factored in as part of the amount of time, but I don't really see answering comments as work. It's fun reading them. Even still, if we call it 10 hours of work, it's still a very good deal.
Damn good deal.
By the way, while we're on the topic of like pseudo YouTube advice, this is why YouTube shorts are honestly pretty worthless unless you are in the top 0.1% of shorts creator. My most viewed YouTube short has about 600,000 views right now, and it's barely made $100. Let's assume generously that it only took me 1 hour to make that. It's probably closer to 2. It's pretty good, but the problem is 99% of channels are not going to get 600 views on a YouTube short that took them an hour, and most of their shorts are going to do very, very poorly. To make a living on YouTube shorts, you need to be getting tens of millions of views per month for the exact same amount of work as a long form creator that's getting like 1 million views. There's an interesting sort of spectrum to look at as a creator, actually. I guess we're going full YouTube theory today. I want to talk about like creative energy and attention span. A live stream gets very few views, probably the least views of all of the types of content on YouTube, and it makes very little revenue as a result, but it is very efficient per view. But it also requires almost no creative energy. You don't have to sit down and come up with this really good idea and come up with a really compelling thumbnail. People who watch live streams just want to come in and watch you play the game and talk to you. So minimal thumbnail work, minimal idea work, no scripting, no planning, you just get into it. It's very efficient if you're the kind of person who isn't massively creative, but you love talking to people and you don't mind being switched on for many, many hours at a time. Then you have long form videos, which, to be specific in this case, means any video that is longer than 8 minutes that is not a live stream, because these 8-minute videos make much more money than videos that are anything shorter than 8 minutes. Like the difference in revenue between 7 minutes 59 seconds and 8 minutes and 1 second is like 50%. It's significant, and it's an arbitrary line that YouTube draws, but regardless, it's true. These types of videos require a fair amount of creativity. You need to probably make multiple uploads a week, or at least an upload a week, make multiple thumbnails a week, or at least one, write multiple scripts, research multiple things, and come up with like good ideas that people will actually click on. These are great if you have a decent amount of good ideas and you like doing different things in your process. You know, you can do, let's say you want to make 3 videos, and whether you make those 3 videos in 1 week or you make 1 video a week, you're going to be looping through different types of things. Maybe, you know, take my channel as a framework. You might do like a tips video, and then a news video, and then a discussion video, and those are very differently made each time, which keeps it interesting over the course of multiple years as a full-time creator. It's good if you're a decently creative person who likes the work of making YouTube videos. Then we have what I'm going to call ultra long form content, which we're just going to say is any content longer than 1 hour. These are a nice hybrid between streams and regular long form content because you can make a lot more money on an hour-long video than a 10-minute video, and because of that, you don't have to make as many videos, so there's less creative energy on sparking up that one good idea and making that one good thumbnail and title combo that's going to draw in the viewership. So you can put less time into those aspects of things and put more time into actually enjoying the video making process. Maybe you make one of these 1 hour videos a week, or maybe you make one every month. It doesn't really matter. It's all relative to the size of your audience and the amount of money you can make per view from your audience and how much effort you're willing to put in. But let's say one of these 1 hour videos per week for a decently productive person who is full-time on YouTube, who has a similar RPM to me. These, you only need one good idea, you only need one script, and you need one thumbnail. These are the most creatively draining parts of the YouTube process, and really just starting them is the big expenditure. So the less of these you have to do, the better it is on the brain, so to speak. But these are really good for people who really like to get into the weeds of video making. If you enjoy spending a lot of time, you know, fixing up your script and then taking really, really good care to get like a perfect recording on your script, and then really planning out your visuals very clearly, and then spending actual days recording and editing for a video, this is the kind of content for you. Like 1, 2, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-hour videos, depending on like how frequent you want to do it, you know? There are some channels out there that get by making 1 8-hour video every 3 or 4 months, and that's cool. That works for them, and that's what they like to do, and that's what their audience likes to watch. Most of your work in them is actually just executing an idea, which of course requires a degree of creativity because YouTube is an inherently creative job, but most of what you do for this stuff is your mechanical skills and basically following a recipe you wrote for yourself. And it's probably most comparable to like conventional employment because most of what you do at a normal job is just following instructions. The difference here is that you do a lot more of writing your own instructions and then doing them. And I personally don't like the process of following those instructions. That's why I became a YouTuber, so I tend not to do these really long form videos. I like the creative part, but I don't like doing too much creative parts, which brings me to YouTube Shorts. These are a bit of a nightmare. In order to sustain yourself as a creator with Shorts, you need to upload sometimes multiple uploads per day, especially if you're not making like 10 million views an upload. And therefore, you're spending lots and lots of creative energy coming up with all these initial ideas and titles over and over again and writing these micro scripts over and over again. But at least you don't have to make a thumbnail, I suppose. What Shorts are good for though is if you're someone who doesn't like the lengthy mechanical process. You want to be done with a video quickly. You want to spend 10 minutes coming up with a funny or good or useful idea, and then you want to spend an hour making it and it's done and it's out. If that's what you like, then you should make Shorts. Fittingly, the best kind of content for you to make as a creator, I think, is the kind of content that is best for your attention span and creativity level, which directly corresponds to what the audience of the format wants. Are you someone who isn't the most creative, but you want to relax mentally and focus on long form slow burn content and just chat with people? Well, you should probably stream because that's what streamers want. Are you someone who likes to be mentally stimulated and enjoys the process of making longer videos, but you'd get unbelievably bored making something really long, like an hour or 2 hours, like me? You should probably make 10, 20, sometimes 30-minute long videos because the full process is like 1 or 2 work days and you can move on to the next idea relatively quickly without having to constantly come up with like 5 new ideas and titles per day, which is really creatively draining. Are you someone who likes to have one good idea and just execute it to perfection and make a really long video? For the people who want to get deeper into ideas, who tend to have longer attention spans, because you're going to need a long attention span too, well, hyper long form content is for you. And if you're someone who has just lots of ideas and funny jokes, but you hate the mechanical process of like actually making a video, maybe you don't like editing or you don't like script writing, or maybe you just get bored of an idea quickly and you don't like to linger on the same thing for very long, fittingly, you should make YouTube Shorts because that's what your viewers are like too. It's kind of obvious when you think about it. And then we have an additional type of content which I'm going to call short long form content, which is non-shorts content that is shorter than 8 minutes. This is utterly worthless monetarily because it'll get long form views, but with shorts like revenue, which is the worst of both worlds. These are best for people who just want to make something actually helpful or entertaining and have no interest in becoming a professional creator. Isn't it so very interesting what we're incentivized to do as creators? People don't get as many ads on short, useful, to the point content, so nobody makes any money on it. So very few people make it at all anymore. Although if you were looking to become like a YouTuber, like where this kind of content is very good is if you're trying to sell something. If you're advertising a course or like a website or merchandise or something, good to the point content that doesn't make any money but directs people to somewhere else they can give you money is an alternate way to make money on YouTube. But what matters most is that you can be a successful creator with all 6 of these styles of content, and there is an audience for each kind of thing large enough to make a living. But where you should focus your attention is really on what works for your own unique brain chemistry. I make those 10 to 20-minute videos because it's the perfect balance of creatively stimulating but not too draining, and mechanical satisfaction but not mechanically grueling. I write a script for about an hour or 2. Any longer and I really start to get bored, I record my videos in basically one take to avoid me getting bored. I record my visuals in an hour or 2, which is actually the worst part of YouTube for me, by the way, because sitting following my own instructions for 2 hours is truly the single most mind-numbing thing I've ever had the displeasure of doing, but at least it's only like a fifth of the job, so that works. And then I edit my visuals for an hour or 2, which is the right amount of editing to get it all done in one session without it absolutely getting soul destroying, because again, editing for a very long time can also get pretty grueling. It's not as bad as recording videos. I like editing. Like, I would, if YouTube wasn't my job and I was like, oh, my channel was deleted tomorrow, I'd probably like look for some kind of channel to be an editor for, because I do enjoy editing, but it is more draining than, say, script writing and recording the audio. And this is good because I only have to have a few good ideas per week. I only need to make a couple of good thumbnails per week. But I would find shorts way too creatively draining to stay motivated with that for very long, and I would find streaming too boring to stay awake, to be honest. Which brings me back to streaming, which is the theme of the video. I can make more money, have more fun, and have less life destruction by just doing what I actually like doing. So I'm gonna focus on that. But that doesn't mean I'll never stream again. There are two big things that I will stream for again. One is a big update or a new release to a game. If I think a new 7 Days to Die update or maybe a new game is going to get me like 1,000 concurrent viewers, and the VOD will probably get like 50k views with an average view duration of say 2 hours, you bet your ass I'm going to stream for 8 hours and milk the shit out of it and make $2,000 in one work day. Who wouldn't? And two is actually just if I want to stream. If I just feel the desire to stream, I shall stream. This does not happen very often, but if it does happen, it means it's not really working because it's just me having fun that I happen to get paid for. That means it probably wouldn't be 7 Days to Die that I stream very much. I might stream some other games, but those games won't get as much viewership, so it won't make as much money, so it's really not a money thing when it comes to those games. It's just fun, because I do really enjoy engaging with my community. I just have to, you know, pay my rent and not destroy my life, which streaming 7 Days to Die is really bad at doing both, funnily enough. Anyway, that's the change for the direction of the channel. Oh, and a quick reminder, we're trying to hit 100k subs this year. I'm trying to avoid saying this in every single video, but I am going to sprinkle it out into like a couple of videos every month. We're nearly 83,000 subscribers right now, which is decent progress. You know, basically 3,000 subscribers in a month. Solid, fantastic. And if you've watched all this way and you watch regularly anyway, it costs you nothing to hit that subscribe button and help me hit 100k. Oh, and in 5 days, this channel hits 5 years since its first upload. So yippee for that. Anyway, if you want to watch even more IzPrebuilt content, why not watch me give a highly critical review of 7 Days to Die in this video, popping up on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.